The honourable member for Richmond.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to introduce this amendment. I should point out that this amendment is going to be circulated now. For those who are not members of the Law Amendments Committee, this might be the first that they hear of this amendment. So allow me to give a bit of background information first. Certainly, as a member for Richmond, where the NewPage mill is located in Point Tupper, I'm pleased to see that legislation has been brought forward following a meeting that took place of both former employees of NewPage and current retirees and their families who voted to request that the legislature extend the wind-up period of their pension plan in the hopes that market conditions are going to improve, which will help hopefully to mitigate some of the losses that they are currently faced with. What's important to note, Madam Chair, is that because the NewPage is filed for bankruptcy or creditor protection, the new company, which is currently negotiating right now for the purchase, has made it clear that they are not interested in taking over the pension plan. So once the sale is completed, the pension plan will no longer have any contributions being made into it. It will only be paying out. So as I indicated before, the pension plans that are there for the Woodlands workers, the office, and the mill workers themselves is over $100 million underfunded as of today. So once the new company takes over, which is expected sometime late summer, early fall, obviously the payouts that are going to be made to the pension plan will be significantly reduced because of the unfunded liability. Madam Chair, I can't emphasize enough how much stress this has caused both the retirees and certainly the former workers, especially those anywhere from the age of 45 to 55, who are now wondering what is going to happen to their retirement in light of the contract they entered into as employees to pay into a pension plan, with the company paying into the pension plan as well, and the expectations that would be there upon their retirement. Madam Chair, I had a number of the both retirees and former employees contact me. One has to keep in mind that as well the new agreement that was signed, the labour agreement between the Stern Group and the union at NewPage, is such that seniority rights have been waived in a number of instances. So for workers who have 30 years experience that might be in their 50s, there's no guarantee that they'll be called back to work. And I had a gentleman, 54 years old, who's been working at that mill since he was in his early 20s, but has not reached the age of 55 and quite potentially will not be called back to work, and is wondering what will happen to his retirement, what will happen to his pension. So, Madam Chair, there's needless to say, there's a great deal of anxiety in the Strait area. As I pointed out in the House and at Law Amendments, the NewPage pension plan was paying out in excess of $20 million per year to retirees from that mill in the Strait area. Needless to say, any reduction of that amount is going to have an economic impact when you refer to a number as high as in excess of $20 million. As is now planned via this legislation, when the wind-up date starts, which I understand will be July 1st, it's anticipated that retirees who are currently collecting benefits will see their checks reduced by 30%. Madam Chair, that's a significant amount of money. When one looks at the overall figure of $20 million a year, that's a reduction of $7 million in that range. So needless to say, removing $7 million out of the economy of the Strait area and for these retirees is going to have a significant impact. The question that was raised to me, that was brought to me, is there anything that can be done to try to put additional monies into this pension plan? Now, we know that the Premier and the Minister of Labour have both publicly and repeatedly said no public money will directly go into the pension plan. So the question was, is there any other creative way that we can find to put some money into this pension plan for the wind-up period, which could be a year, could be a maximum of 11 years. Madam Chair, I'm not suggesting that this is the only answer. I am suggesting to you that this amendment is a good faith attempt on my part as the MLA for Richmond to try to find a way of helping these retirees and the workers who are seeing such losses for their retirement once they're prepared to retire. The basis of this amendment, which I will read shortly, is that for the owner of the operator of the mill, whether it was Stora, NewPage, and we anticipate it will be the Stern Group or Pacific West Corporation next, when harvesting is being done of woods on Crown land, the company is expected to pay back to the province what is referred to as a stumpage fee, which is a calculation which is fairly complicated, I understand, as to how much they need to pay back to the province based on how much timber they've actually taken off of Crown land. The process that's in place is that once that payment is made to the Department of Natural Resources, a portion of that is deducted by the Department of Natural Resources and paid back to the companies for what's referred to as a silviculture fee. Silviculture fee basically is to pay the company to replant trees on behalf of the province of Nova Scotia on the woodlands where harvesting has taken place. When I asked for the numbers from this, I was told that approximately $2.7 million was paid per year to natural resources from NewPage, and before that, Stora. From that $2.7 million, approximately $1.7 million went back into silviculture for the replanting of trees. That left approximately $1 million in around that figure that went to general revenue for the province of Nova Scotia. It was not dedicated to a specific program, it went to general revenue. So my amendment, in essence, would be to allow the province with the Pacific West Corporation or Stern Group to look at what should be paid on a yearly basis for stumpage, how much should be paid in silviculture, and then the remainder, rather going to general revenue, that the Stern Group or Pacific West Corporation would be permitted to pay that amount directly into the pension plan for as long as the wind-up period takes place. So in essence, the money would come from the company, not from the government, to be paid directly into the pension plan. Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, as I mentioned before, when I did bring this to law amendments, I made it clear that this proposal had already been brought to the attention of an official with the Premier's office. This was not meant to be an element of surprise on my part to catch the government off guard or to try to embarrass them. It was, as I said before, a good faith attempt to at least have a discussion on this matter. If this amendment was not the right way to go, was there any other means of being creative and finding options there that could put possibly some further funds into that pension plan? Madam Chair, I was disappointed that the response that came back was clearly no on behalf of the government, that there was no intentions of having any discussions regarding any means of being able to put additional monies into that pension fund, regardless of whether it came from the company or it came from any sources. The government was not prepared to be a partner in finding that solution. So I will point out that the bill does allow for an external party to put more money into the pension plan, but we're not quite sure who that external party could be now that the amendment I've proposed doesn't appear to be getting any government support, and as I mentioned before, there doesn't seem to be a desire to even undertake any discussions on the specific matter. So, Madam Chair, as I said, this was discussed with the Premier's office. I did bring it to the Law Amendments Committee stage, where unfortunately did not receive the support of the government members. I will take the opportunity to thank my colleagues in the Progressive Conservative Caucus who did indicate their support and I believe interest in trying to have further discussions on this matter. So, Madam Chair, with that, allow me to read the resolution, which states as follows. On page 2, it would add after clause 3 the following, which would be a new clause 4, subsection 1. In this section, crown and stumpage have the same meanings as in the Crown Lands Act. Subsection 2, subject to subsection 4, the minister shall, as soon as is practical, enter into an agreement with the administrator to enable a portion of any stumpage or other charges paid to the Crown pursuant to subsection 35, subsection 1 of the Crown Lands Act to be directed to the pension plans. Subsection 3, the agreement entered into pursuant to subsection 2 must provide that the payment of a portion of any stumpage or other charges paid to the Crown pursuant to subsection 35(1) of the Crown's Land Act continue until the wind-up date. In subsection 4, the monies required for the purpose of this section must be paid out of monies appropriated for that purpose by the legislature. Then it would have pages 2 to 8, clauses 4 to 14, renumber as 5 to 15, and change cross-references accordingly. So, Madam Chair, I believe that explains what the amendment is, and I'm hoping with the time that has passed since we met at Law Amendments that the government may have had the opportunity to reconsider its position to oppose this amendment, and I'm hoping that if they are not in favor of this amendment, then they will at least indicate a desire to have some discussions on behalf of the retirees and the workers of the former NewPage facility. And with that, Madam Chair, I would so move the amendment.
The Speaker of the Nova Scotia House of Assembly grants permission to record the televised proceedings of the legislature for use in schools and for other purposes such as private study, research, review, or newspaper summary. Television and radio broadcasters may make use of recorded excerpts of the televised proceedings in their news or public affairs programs for the purpose of fair and accurate reports of proceedings. Program material may not be used for political party advertising, election campaigns, or any other politically partisan activity. Program material may not be edited for use in promotional material by any political party or other organization, and may not be used in any edited form that could mislead or misinform an audience or viewer, or which does not present a balanced portrayal of the proceedings in the House. Video program material may only be used with its original audio components, and no other audio material may be added to video material used. Any other commercial use or rebroadcast of these proceedings requires the express written approval of the Speaker.